What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Rogue Painter channel. I am JD, aka the Rogue Painter, and for today's tutorial we're going to be learning how to assemble a model with glue. Now this isn't a push fit model, so glue is required for this, and for today's miniature we're going to be using Azure Thunderbolt from, no sorry, got that wrong, Xandria azurebolt from the Mortal Realms magazine issue 5. We're just going to go through the process of clipping her parts out, assembling them and putting her on the base ready to paint or prime. Now I have washed this with some soapy water and let it dry fully before doing this, just so that it's all ready to receive a prime undercoat. So first of all, we'll just go through some of the things that we need. A pair of clippers. Now these are the Games Workshop Citadel clippers, but any clippers should work fine. Just make sure that they are modelling clippers and not just a pair of old, wire cutters or anything like that, because wire cutters tend to have a thicker point here so that they can cut through the wire better, whereas model clippers tend to have a flat side and then the beveled edge on the inside, so you can get right up close to the model, or to the model for cutting the sprue. On top of that, you'll also want some kind of craft knife. This is just a cheap one from the local pound shop. In America you call them the dollar store, but any craft knife would do. Just make sure it has a decent blade on there. This I use just for cleaning up the miniature, removing some of the sprue that's left on there, or removing mould lines. For the mould lines, you could also use a mould line remover tool. This is one that comes free again with the Mortal Realms magazines. This is the Games Workshop one. Usually it has the sort of burgundy wood handle on here. The free ones are just the smaller piece. I think you also get these in the modelling kit that you can buy from Games Workshop. Along with that, you're going to need some plastic glue, and I'm going to use some super glue as well, just to affix her to the base. The reason being, plastic glue forms a much stronger bond, and so your miniature isn't going to break apart. What plastic glue does is it sort of melts the plastic slightly on both contact points, and actually melts them together almost like a soldering, so they form a strong bond, whereas super glue just forms a bond and can become a little bit brittle with plastic, so you can essentially snap it, which is why I will be using it to affix it to the base, as this isn't going to be her permanent base, or at least not quite like this. So I want to be able to remove her to put her onto a new base, or do something to this base first, but I do need something to hold her whilst painting. As an alternative to the super glue, you could use blue tack or white tack, any kind of tack, and just stick it to her feet. Obviously the problem with that is she's only stuck by a small amount of tackiness, which means when painting she's likely to fall off. And what some modelers do is they'll take a pin drill and drill a small hole in her foot, put a small piece of wire in there, super glue it in, and then push the wire into a piece of cork that they can then hold and paint, and then once done they can just cut the wire flush with the bottom of the foot and then glue to whichever base they're using. So if that's your preferred method, go ahead, you can go ahead and do that. But for now, we'll just start removing these pieces. Now these are numbered, and in the sheet that comes with this particular model from the Mortal Realm magazine, it does tell you how to assemble her. But obviously, because all these pieces are used and they all are for her, I don't need to really bother with that, so I'm just going to go by what I can find. So when clipping, take the flat edge of the clippers, take them close to the miniature, see if we can get this here, and then apply a bit of pressure. The reason you use the flat edge is you're then not squashing the miniature if you're going close to it with the beveled edge, or you're not clipping too far away and taking off a huge chunk of the sprue, or leaving a huge chunk of sprue attached to the miniature. So again, up to the edge and then just snip and follow this all around each individual piece. Do be sure that it is the sprue you are clipping and not any part of the miniature. When it comes to something like this hand here, we can see that it is attached by the sprue by a finger. Now, most people would just go through and clip whatever. Me personally, I like to clip the weak points first and leave the stronger points connected and then clip those, rather than do the stronger point then the weak point. The reason being, if you clip this, it's gonna flex a little bit and will flex on the weak point. It's better to remove the weak point and have it flex on the stronger point. So again, very carefully make sure that we're not clipping the miniature. Clip that, and then what I do is hold it with finger and thumb over and then snip away. That way I'm still holding it, and then I can just drop that down where I need, and it reduces the amount of flex. So we'll go ahead and do this for the other pieces. There's the head. So again, we've got a small lightning bolt just here, so we'll clip that piece first instead of making it the last piece. Then we'll go ahead and clip the other side of that, and we'll make the base of the staff the last piece to remove, as it's the most sturdy. There we go. So obviously here we go with the chain. And with clipping pieces like this, do be very careful, as we've got two shoulder pads connected by the chain here, making the chain essentially the weakest link. So you've got to be very careful. I mean, this piece here we're literally held on by a super thin piece of plastic, so we don't want to be breaking that. Then we'll go ahead and remove at the shoulder here, and then at the base of these cloaks. This one at the top of this head dress piece. Make sure that we're not clipping any part of the model, and that we're only clipping sprue. Here we can go ahead and clip any part of this, but I'll make the foot the last piece, as if anything goes wrong with that, it's at the base of the model underneath and won't be seen. Oh, forgot to do the leg here. There we go. The leg was the last piece. Okay, next up is to take our mould line remover and just go around each piece and make sure there's no mould lines. Clean off. Games Workshop miniatures tend to be pretty good with their mould lines. They usually hide them along the joins, so there's not too much removal. Now this part here is where the sprues are connected. So for this part, I'm going to take our knife and gently, you don't need to apply too much force. Now this is the reason I'm using a curved one, is that I can put my thumb in the curve there, which is unsharpened, and then I can just push through. That way I'm not coming onto anything, and if you notice that if I come away, there's nothing to hit me. If I'm doing it like this, there's a good chance I'm going to hit my thumb. Oh, and drop the miniature. Alright, there we go. So again, just check around, make sure that is flush. Yep, that's nice, that's flush, that's that piece. Now you can do this after assembly if you wish. I just like to go through. Another thing you can do if you don't want to use the mould line remover tool is angle the blade away from you and then pull towards you. Now because you're pulling towards you, there's no contact with the sharp side of the blade, and so you can just get that little scraping and just remove some of that plastic sprue. There we go. pretty good on this miniature. There isn't too much to remove. If you get a good pair of clippers with that flat edge, then you end up with a lot less sprue attached to your piece. Which means a lot less cleanup in the long run. And again, I am going over, my thumb will hit here, so I'm not going to go flying off. I'm not applying a huge amount of pressure. If you have to apply too much pressure, your blade is too dull to be doing this. You want a nice sharp blade, and you'll be less likely to cut yourself. Alright, so here's the hand, so we can see there's a little bit on the finger there. So we're just going to cut downwards. Now obviously if I slip, I'm only hitting the miniature here, so going this way is okay. Alright, it's looking pretty good for this. There's the head. And that's all fine. And did we check the staff? Small piece there to remove. Obviously models come out of the molds different, and with large companies obviously they're using more than one mold, so defects and things like that, you know, mold lines, they are going to be slightly different on all miniatures. Just go through it, give it a good check over, make sure that it's how it should be. Right, there we go. So now we've got that out of the way, we can move on to assembly. It's always good practice to dry fit any pieces first. Make sure they line up correctly. Are we doing that right? There we go. So she's missing the back piece there, which will be the cloak here. So we'll glue that one first, followed by the piece over the back. So what we'll do, take our pot of glue, and these aren't the best pots to use. If you can get one with a brush, it'll be better, but it is what it is. So again, we're going to just check where this lines up, make sure that we get it right, and this is there. So in contact, we are having the join just there, the bottom curve of this, the bottom curve of that, and in there. So what we do, we just apply a small amount of glue in that area where the contact was made. And then the same on this piece, so just in there, and there, and then down along the bottom and up. The reason we put it on both sides is just to make sure that it has a good bond to itself and the plastic. So again, do it this way, line it up as before, fit it in, and just hold it for a bit while it glues. Now I'm not going to assemble this whole miniature, as I do want to paint parts of it separate so that it's easier to get to. So as we're assembling this, we'll see what the parts look like, as they're together, what interferes with what else, and then decide what we're going to do. So obviously we can get all underneath her there and the inside of the cloak, so there's no problem there. And with the top half here, we can see that although that does cover slightly there, that doesn't interfere enough with painting that we shouldn't apply it, so we will go ahead and put that piece on as well. So with that, we can pretty much see that all the join is in this area here and along there. So same thing again, just run the glue along that area, don't go into the gap where the neck will join, and then the same on this piece, just around here, skip the gap because we don't want to fill that, and then just over the body there, and then we will go ahead and fit this part. So same again, fit it into place if we can. There we go. There, that's the one. We'll let that dry. It looks like her arms aren't going to be in the way, so we will also do that. But the pauldrons, maybe may leave them and apply them afterwards. The pauldrons being the shoulder guards. So let's have a look. I'm assuming that would go on like so. No, round the back. There we go. Bit fiddly this one. So that will go around the back, and as you can see, that then covers a little bit of the underside, and getting under behind there may be a bit difficult. So I think we'll leave that part out, paint that separate. Personal choice, you can fix yours if you want yours affixed. The hand will be fine for affixing, so we'll go ahead and glue that into place. Now although this bonds in a few seconds, it does take a few minutes to dry and make a full bond, so don't be in any hurry to paint this. You know, leave it a good 5 minutes, 10 minutes before applying any primer. Make sure that glue's cured properly. So there's that one, and the other arm will be here like so, and again that doesn't seem to interfere with anything, so I'm happy enough to apply that. Usually it's things like the arms that you'll want to leave off, weapons and stuff, but I only do so if it's going to interfere with the piece. So there's that. So that's her finished, and then she'll be on the base as such. So next we have a head to affix, and this little piece on top. As I said, I'm not planning on, there we go, so that's just going to go on like that nicely. So we'll just apply a small piece of glue in there, but I will be painting the head separate. The reason I'm painting the head separate there is once it's in there, I'm not going to get behind it or for the cloak down there, so we want everything easy access. So there we go. One almost completed miniature, ready for priming and then painting. So thanks a lot for joining me for this video, guys. I hope that was informative enough for you. Obviously, if you're more experienced, then you know what you're doing already, but I do aim these tutorials for people just getting into the hobby, as I do like to, you know, help new hobbyers out and you know, keep the community going. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like it, as well as, you know, more in-depth painting tutorials that I've got, including how to paint this model, then hit that subscribe button and the bell so that you'll receive notifications of when new videos go live. I have Mortal Realms Mondays, painting tutorials and magazine reviews, obviously every Monday. So that goes through the Mortal Realms magazines and how to paint the models from each week's issue, or the previous week's issue. As and when I receive them, I am on a subscription delivery, so I do get mine a little bit sporadically at the minute, until that falls in line. Apart from that, thanks for joining me. If you want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, I've got links for those down below, as well as Twitch, where I do live streaming painting. So you can follow me on there, watch me do some live painting on Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays and Fridays. Not just Warhammer, but other things as well, such as D&D miniatures, Batman stuff, all sorts really, anything to do with miniature painting. So yeah, thanks a lot guys, and I will catch you next time.